Hello everybody, this is Diana Rose and I'm here to give you the review for Love and Marriage Huntsville. This is season 3, episode 13, and it's called A Date with Destiny. It was a very interesting episode, gave us a lot of information. So it actually opens up with Destiny. She is at a photo shoot for her own. She is shooting the cover for Hype Hair magazine. Her business is growing and it's getting a lot of attention, and they asked her if she would like to do the cover, so that is wonderful news for her. Her dad actually comes to visit her, and she is there with baby Law, so he gets to see the baby as well. But he is very proud of her, and he's like crying a little bit and telling her, you know, she's come a long way, and he's really just happy that she is where she is right now with everything that's gone on with her, with, you know, divorcing and having a new baby in her life. While she is on the shoot, Tisha also stops in to visit, and they take a little break so she and Tisha can chit chat, and they get right into things. They basically, you know, they talked a little bit about Las Vegas, and Destiny asked Tisha, you know, what she thought of everything. And she was like, you know, I think that Tiffany, they both agreed, Tiffany can get into people's business in a way that rubs them the wrong way. So right now they both don't see it for Tiffany, and they're discussing that. Destiny Destiny also said that Melody is rubbing her the wrong way, because right now she just appears to be taking up for Tiffany every way she can, and she doesn't like that at all. She's like, I want Melody to stay out of it and stop being Tiffany's fairy godmother, joining in and trying to take care of that girl. Tisha says that Tisha says that Tiffany definitely does not need help with taking care of herself. She can stand up on her own 2 feet, and they both agree about that as well. Destiny also asked Tisha how she felt, or how did Kimmy handle things when her and Mel were back and forth and into it. Did Kimmy join in and try to take up for Mel? And she was like, actually no, and I actually wanted her to take up for me a little bit more, but that didn't happen either. So then Destiny asked Tisha about, you know, how things are going between her and Marcel since Vegas. And Tisha basically says that she's over it. She doesn't know what to think. She's kind of exhausted. Right now, she's just going through the motions, what she's done before. So she's just she seemed very, very exhausted by the whole thing, and didn't give very much detail other than that. So, and the next scene we have Martell. He visits Marcel at his office. Marcel's there doing, it looked like, some floor plans for one of the houses he's building. And he basically tells him, I want you to become one of the partners on the 47 acres. So he had talked to him before about that. I think in last season, he had kind of came to him and said something about it. But he said that Marcel has a builder's license. So he's very interested in bringing Marcel on. And if you remember, Martell does not have a builder's license, but Melody does. And a couple of episodes ago, Chris had approached Melody and said to her that the developers wanted to bring her back onto the project. And she said at that time, she wanted Chris to ask Martell because she didn't know if Martell would take too kindly to her being involved. He was like, well, Martell doesn't have anything to do with it. Developers are asking for you. Well, Martell is seeking out a developer so that he can push Melody out the deal, or someone with a builder's license so he can push Melody out the deal because she holds that builder's license. And I know he brought in a friend, but it sounds like that might have fell through, whoever he was talking to before. And he is back to Marcel. So he asked if he was interested in doing it, and he tells him why. He doesn't want Melody in on it. He actually said, I was insulted that Chris asked her at all because he and I were friends, when the truth is they were all friends. But, you know, Martell is Martell. Marcel asked, you know, how things went. Like, did you approach Melody and tell her that you didn't want her in the deal? And he even said, did you say it in an arrogant way, like, I don't want you in the deal, or were you cool about it? And Martell said, I think I was cool about it, but you know me, I might have came across a little ignorant. So Marcel said, well, how would you feel if Melody was in the project? And he then changed his tune a little bit, because now he's thinking, well, maybe Marcel wants to work with Melody, even though he does not, and he will find a way to get Melody out of it. But he was like, I think we could do it, you know, me and Melody are family first, is how he put it. And Marcel said, well, listen, after what I saw in Vegas, I don't think the two of you could really work together. I don't know if we want to even play that game. And Martell's like, a little confused either way. Like, I don't know how to answer. I just know I don't want Melody to be a part of it. So interestingly enough, he tells him that Chris is on his way and he wanted to talk to Marcel about the deal. Martell seems a little shocked that Chris is on his way because that was the first time he had heard about it. So he's like, okay, he's on his way here. Chris pops in. He gives Marcel a couple more details about the 47 acres. Marcel asks Chris how he feels about Melody and Martell working on the project together. And Chris says, they're adults. He doesn't feel any way about it. It's business. It's not their marriage. He believes that they should be able to, partner together without any problem on the business deal. Marcel says that, he's a friend of both of them and he thinks that things could get a little tricky. However, he believes that he can work with anybody except his mother-in-law. So if it's Wanda on the deal, then he can consider himself out. But right now he's kind of interested in maybe putting a bid in on the 47 acres. In the next scene, we see Destiny and Tiffany. They meet at a bar to talk about the lack thereof of their relationship. Destiny thanks Tiffany for coming, and Tiffany said, I'm happy to be here, but, truth of the matter is, I almost didn't come. And Destiny jumps on her right away. She was, like, why weren't you thinking about coming? She was like, well, I didn't know what was coming for me. And Destiny said, well, you got a smart mouth, and that's what we're here to basically address. So if you learn to control your mouth, you don't have to worry about what's coming for you. So Destiny didn't hold back in getting in Tiffany's face. And Tiffany looks a little like, oh, I don't want to deal with you right now. But she sits there and she listens and takes it a little bit. Tiffany asked Destiny, what was it like for you being the new girl in this group? Everybody has a hard time trying to fit in, and that's all I'm trying to do is fit in. I understand that things hasn't, gone well between you and I so far. I'd like to see something different. And Destiny says, well, listen, girl, basically you're in all of our business. So what's going on with you? Like, give us some of your dirt. What's your business? And Tiffany tells her, she says, I have a pretty messed up past. I wasn't born Tiffany. I was born, I think she said, Jamie Lynn Payne. And she was adopted. She was given away for adoption because she was biracial. And she said for 19 years of her life, she struggled trying to figure out her connection to the family that took her in. Like, she was like, I didn't feel connected to them. I knew something was wrong. I knew I was different. I kept trying to figure it out. And when she turned 19, it was a neighbor who told her that she was adopted. She said she kind of had a child shortly after that. And she was like, where she is today, her child is her only biological relative that she knows. It's her only blood relative that she knows. So she struggles with transparency. I shouldn't say she struggles with it, but for her, transparency is everything. So she just likes to jump in and say what's going on because she felt like the majority of her life she was lied to. And Destiny is very empathetic. She's like, I get it. I grew up in foster care. And so, I hate that happened to you. She was like, I just want to, just figure you out a little bit more. So they talked a little about some other things. Tiffany ends up apologizing. She says, I sincerely apologize for making you feel a way. That was not my objective. That was not my goal. Destiny does accept it. She was like, however, when I said what I said at the time, I did mean it, but I do understand where you're coming from now. But moving forward, if you could just be a little more respectful of my space and other people's space, that's my love language. I can be a bull in a china shop when I approach people, but I just want you to know that I understand where you're coming from now, and I'm glad that we're having this talk. They basically make up, and Tiffany invites Destiny to her anniversary. So her and Lewis are coming up on their 1-year anniversary, and they're having a party, and they wanted Tiffany to come. They wanted Destiny to come. So everything looks well there. In the next scene, we have Melody. Well, I do want to say this. I'm hoping that now that Destiny has a little more insight on Tiffany. Her relationship with Melody can get a little better, because that was getting to be a really tight situation, especially the stuff that she said about Melody when she was with Tisha. So I'm hoping that will change her tune with thinking that Melody is not her friend or has some sneaky thing in the mix. But in the next scene, we have Melody and Chris. Melody meets Chris, that was the real estate broker, at his office to discuss the 47 acres. And she basically said, you know, when you first brought this to my attention, I didn't know if I wanted to participate in it because I didn't know how Martell was going to take it. And he was like, yeah, I understand. I did talk to Martell about it. And she asked him how things went when he did bring it to her. And he was like, well, he didn't want you to be a part of it, basically. And he thought that I was being completely disrespectful by even asking you. And she basically said, listen, I was a part of this 47 acres before divorce was even on the table between he and I. That was a part of the deal that I helped, you know, cultivate. So I am going to be a part of it. Like, you know, I have goals. Those goals are still going to be met. I have a family to take care of. I need to make money. So Chris smiled and said, I understand. Chris tells her that he did meet with Martell and Marcel, and Melody immediately knew what that was. And she was like, what was it about? And he was like, well, he wants to bring him on as a general contractor. And she said that Martell is a snake, because what he's trying to do is push me out. Even though the developers asked me to come on because I have a business license, but he's willing to bring Marcel back in this game. And she was like, you know, he had all this horrible history with Marcel. Marcel didn't pay him for a couple of projects. He's just now reestablishing his friendship with him. She has kids by him, and he's trying to take money off of her table. So she was like, I'm in. I'm going to bid on this property. I don't care what he thinks. So good for her. And Chris nodded, because he got it, and that's exactly what he wanted to hear. He didn't want Melody to just, you know, lay down and take it. So she's not. In the next scene, we see that Martell is meeting with Maurice at Maurice's office, and Maurice does, he rebuilds people's credit. And it turns out that Martell had to file for bankruptcy as a result of the divorce, and it is affecting his business and his ability to get a line of credit so that he can purchase homes and rebuild. So he asked Maurice, you know, what can you do? He's like ready, anxious, excited, think it's going to like turn around for him the very next day. And Maurice says, slow your roll. It could take up to 2 years before we can get this, you know, bankruptcy off your credit, which is not what he wanted to hear. But it also, again, confirms for me, he doesn't want Melody to outdo him, outpace him money-wise. And that's why he's trying to stop her or slow her down with things. You're not taking care of the kids. I'll take care of the kids. I'll do this. You know, stop singing that song. Whatever you're doing that's making him look smaller and you look bigger, that's exactly what he's doing. So that was crazy. But I can't wait to see how this happens next week. I know Melody had previously said that she didn't want to be in spaces with Martell for too long, but it's going to be interesting to see if she can win this bid for the 47 acres and if Martell can actually do anything, which is why he's trying to partner with Marcel, because Marcel might be the money end on this. And in the last scene, we have Tisha. She is meeting with Dr. Francis for individual counseling, and she gave us a lot of information about her and Marcel's relationship that we did not know. She basically said that she was 4 months pregnant when she married Marcel, and her relationship with him has only been, or her relationship with him and her relationship with herself in the world, basically, has been as a mother and a wife. And Marcel is running around here talking about how depressed he is. She's also depressed because she is living the life of her mother and her grandmother. And she said, I had promised myself when I was a child, I would never put myself in the position where I did not live the life I wanted, because I watched my mother and my grandmother wait hand and foot on men. That was the thing. Like a man couldn't even pick up the dish and wash it. Like that was women's work. And she was like, now I find myself doing those things. Marcel won't pick up a dish and wash it. Maybe he does, but it's every once in a blue. But he considered that Tisha's job. And so it is affecting her. And even though she didn't say she was depressed, I think Tisha may be depressed as well. I know it would depress the hell out of me. But she explains that to Dr. Francis. And he was like, okay. He was like, so what brings you here today? And she said basically that, you know, when her and Marcel were in Vegas, he had brought up that he was depressed. And he also told her, even though we didn't see that on camera, but he told her that she might be the reason for his depression because he feels the need to work so much because she likes material things. And Dr. Francis said, is he holding you hostage with his depression? And then he asked her if she thought she was the cause of the depression. And she said, no. She said, I do like material things. She did not, you know, say she didn't. She said, I love material things. For her, that is her love language. But she said Marcel likes material things as well. So she was like, I don't know why it's such a problem for me when he also likes it. And Dr. Francis asked a little bit more questions like, well, why is that your love language? Like, what does material things mean for you? And she said, it tells me that he loves me. That's how my mother would tell me she loved me when I was a child. That's how my grandmother would tell me that she loved me when I was a child. I never heard them speak the words, I love you. Dr. Francis asked her if Marcel ever said those words, and she said, yeah, he says them all the time. In fact, when he first said them, that was the first time I had really heard anyone say it to me like that. She was like, I can still remember the first time my grandmother ever told me that he loves me. My mother, doesn't sound like to this day, she still might have a problem with telling Tisha that she loves her. Hopefully not, but Tisha was kind of starved to hear the words, and that's why she and Marcel got together in the first place. But now she still expects gifts. She still expects him to do certain things, and that, you know, she was just used to in the growing up part of it. And Dr. Francis said, you do realize that's not a Marcel problem. Those are your problems. Like, those are things that you have to work on. And she sat there and listened. She, you know, she wasn't, you know, overly teary-eyed or anything. I think she dabbed her eyes maybe twice, but she got it. She understood that this is something she has to work through. She also told him that Marcel didn't want to renew his vows when he was in Vegas. She told him that, you know, he thinks Vegas nuptials are kind of janky, that he thinks it's a joke. And then he asked her, why did she need it? Did she let him know that it was important to her? She said that she didn't let him know it was important to her. But I think at that point she realized she wasn't going to win anyway, because he was pretty adamant, absolutely not, I'm not doing it. But she explained to him that they had some the last 3 years have been pretty rocky because they've been plagued with rumors about him cheating and having an outside baby. And Tisha also said, where there's smoke, there's fire. And right now there's a lot of smoke. And so Dr. Francis said, you know, the truth doesn't need any defense. So what is it that you basically need for him? And Tisha said that in order for her to trust or defend Marcel, she needs to know that the rumors are a lie. And so Dr. Francis asked, you know, what is she doing to confirm that it was a lie? And that's where the show goes off. So we don't know if Tisha's confirmed that, you know, these rumors are a lie, or like at the beginning, she said, where there's smoke, there's fire. And right now there's a lot of smoke. So that fire is growing pretty fast underneath that smoke, if that's the case. But that's how it ended with that open question, whether or not those rumors are true or if they're fake, and if she believes them or not. So we will see next week. It looks like she talked to Marcel about her visit with Dr. Francis. Doesn't look like Marcel's given her anything though, but they absolutely have a come to Jesus moment for next week. And that is where we are going to end this episode, this review, and we will talk about it next week.